How's it going, people? Hope you're all well. Welcome back to the show. Thought I'd do another Arsenal show today. I'm your host, as ever, Dan Potts. Thank you so much for joining us. And I've got a wonderful guest with me. Jess, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy the football is back. Like for
Mm,
me personally, last weekend was so hard. Like it just
mm.
was. Like I didn't even watch any other leagues. I just watched Disney movies because I was like, I need my Prem. I need my Premier League. And so now that we are back, Arsenal are going to be playing on Sunday. I'm happy. I'm excited. What about you?
Yeah, it's all good, man. Listen, without football, as much as we moan about it, without it, it's a frustration, isn't it? So I'm with you 100%. And I feel personally like there was some politics getting involved and there was opinions that some people should have just kept to themselves. I totally understand why it didn't happen at the weekend, but it doesn't mean that we don't miss it. So it's back this weekend and we're all happy. The only thing is just we've got another international break after that, so it's going to stop after that quite promptly. So yeah, man. But listen, let's talk a little bit about Arsenal. It feels like me and you haven't spoken for a while, and I feel like I'm kind of keeping up as best I can with your opinions, but it's been a while. So talk to me about the start of this season. We're top of the league, 5 wins. Okay, we lost at Old Trafford, and to me showed a little bit of naivety still, but top of the league, manager of the month for Mikel Arteta. Things are looking okay at the moment for Arsenal. What's your thoughts, Jess?
Yeah, I can't complain. When you win 5 games in a row, you beat the teams you're supposed to. It's definitely not something to like go overboard with, but we know and we've seen from some of our rivals that beating the teams that you're supposed to doesn't always happen. And so those are the teams that you beat that kind of give you that cushion. So if you do go away from home to Old Trafford, which is a really difficult ground for us, we never really play well there, and you lose, then you still have something to look forward to and you can still rebound from it. So, I haven't been shocked because I do think this team has all the capabilities to beat the teams that we have. I also think this team could have beat Manchester United as well. But I'm looking forward to the Brentford game because it's our first game back after a loss, first game back in the Premier League after a loss. And I think this is where Arsenal crumbled last season. We'd lose in bunches, lose one, then lose the next, then lose the next. It would also come after, weirdly, Mikel Arteta would get manager of the month, and all of a sudden we just capitulate. So I'm interested to see the mentality, like mentality wise, where we're at. But so far, so good. Like the additions that we've made, Gabriel Jesus, I think, has been phenomenal for us. I think Zinchenko, albeit he's had some injury issues, has made us look different in possession. Like what he adds is something that we've probably missed. And then Saliba, finally seeing him in the team has been almost like a dream. So I couldn't be any happier. It's just we could have beat Manchester United. That would have made me happier. But in terms of the start of the season, I'm happy.
Listen, and you should be happy. I think a lot of Arsenal fans are happy, and we've got to try and milk it while we're at the top because we know it ain't going to last forever. Well, we assume it isn't anyway, the way Man City are playing. I think when you look at what Arsenal have improved upon, I think you summed it up quite well in terms of the new signings. I think Zinchenko, Jesus, and of course Saliba, who's not a new signing, but obviously now has come back into the side. I think they've taken us to that next level. And what I've been really impressed about is the fact that those three players have then kind of improved everybody else around them. I think Ben White's been really good at right back, and I think a lot of that's got to do with Saliba. I think Martinelli's game has been raised because of the signing of Gabriel Jesus. And on that left-hand side now, we look really good. And of course, Zinchenko's a part of that on that left as well when he has been fit. So I think those three have definitely taken us to a new level. But you made a really good point. What are we going to get now we've got a loss? Because last season, we had 3 losses at the start of the season. And then we went on a nice little run. Then we got another 3 losses against, I think it was Everton, Liverpool, and United. Then a little run. Then we lost to Man City on New Year's Day after everyone said we played really well at home. And then we still couldn't beat Burnley the next time. That was a draw. And then, of course, we had the Newcastle and Tottenham losses towards the end of the season. And that's not forgetting the shocker we had against Brighton, Southampton, and Palace. So they were all in little chunks across the whole season. It wasn't Arsenal have lost one, they bounced right back. What we saw last season as well, Jess, was probably one game against Wolves where we went 1-0 down, where we managed to turn it around 2-1. We're already seeing now us turn around some games. We were 1-0 down against Fulham. We turned it round. against Leicester and Villa. When they scored, we bounced straight back and we got a goal back into the game. And I think that's something we've definitely progressed. What we now need to see is our bounce back ability against a loss. And I think it's a bit of a frustration that Everton and Brentford didn't happen within the two games of each other, because I think they're two winnable games there. So I think this will be key on Sunday to know what Arsenal we're getting right now. Have we matured? Are we showing a little bit of development, a little bit of progression? Have we got the mentality now in terms of the shift to try and bounce back to a win? And I think that's what's going to be key for me. So I want to get your thoughts on if you think this side has shown any signs of maturity in terms of trying to bounce back after a win to you.
It's yet to be seen. That's the thing. It's yet to be seen. Like, of course, I see differences in the team. I think in some instances we've been really, really good in terms of, I thought we showed a lot of maturity against Crystal Palace. I thought that was a game that a lot of people were looking at like there was a lot of pressure on it. We hadn't played well against them last season. First game back, Crystal Palace just kind of have an edge on us for some reason. And we showed the maturity to have like it wasn't a perfect performance. Like we all know sometimes it was like kind of sketchy, but a 2-0 win away from home at a place that we don't do well at. I thought I saw maturity in that game. It doesn't always have to be pretty. You just have to get the 3 points, especially away from home. Coming back, like you said, against Fulham, for me, showed some maturity. And even though, you can look at the Manchester United game and there was some naivety there, maybe from the manager. Depends on what you think, but from the manager and the changes that we made, we went 1-0 down there and came back and scored another goal and looked good. And in a lot of that game, we didn't just completely capitulate. So I think I've seen some changes, but ultimately it's all in the results. That's what it comes down to. This season has to be about results. Last season, it was about style of play and, stringing together a couple of passes and, the passing patterns and things like that. This season is about the results. So for me, it's hard to judge whether or not I think the maturity is actually there and we've progressed in that way without actually seeing it. But we're playing against a Brentford team that has a really informed striker in Ivan Toney that do really well against the big teams. I've seen them nick points from big teams quite a bit since they've been in the Premier League. And they have a style of play that some teams find difficult to play against because they're big. They're a big team and they'll bully you and things like that. So it's a huge challenge, but we have more than enough capability to do it. It's just a matter of do they have it up here? And that's what we'll see on Sunday.
Yeah, I think you make great points, and I think you're right about Sunday. Listen, Ivan Toney's a great player, but he ain't their only one. They've got some good players. They've got some physical presence. They've got a lot of attributes, Brentford, that I think last season bullied us. We were underprepared the last time we played Brentford. Facts. It was our first game of the season. We had COVID problems, and also I don't think we had 4 of the signings that we signed in the first window in the summer. So it's going to be a different Arsenal. It's also going to be a different Brentford. I actually think they've been a surprise package this season. A lot of my friends said they think they would go down this season. Now, I know it's a long way to go, but I think what I've seen from Brentford is a kind of fight and a kind of passion and desire to want to win football matches. And they've also got goals in their side. Although defensively, I think we can get at them. I think they've definitely got some big problems. And one of them, of course, is Ivan Toney, who's now on absolute fire again and obviously now gets into the England squad. So I want to ask you kind of where you think we can win this game on Sunday, and your kind of predictions going into this one, Jess.
Yeah, I think the main thing is don't give them a lot of corners and a lot of throw-ins close to the corner flag. I think that's a key for us to make sure that they don't score. Now, this season, I think defensively, although we've minimized teams from being able to get a lot of shots against us and things like that, we have the bozo gene. It's there. It's just there. Like we all know it's there. And we have these moments where we click off and we give up goals that we probably shouldn't have. We don't have to go through them, but we've all seen them this season. And so for me, keeping them out is so important because they're the type of team that they'll get more confidence the more goals that they get. And so if you give up a silly goal early off of a corner or a long throw, or you mess around with the ball in your box and Ivan Toney takes it from you and slams it in the back of the net, you're in trouble because their fans are going to get up for it. They're going to get up for it, and then they're going to get that confidence. So I think keeping them off the score sheet is very important. But for us, I think our wing forwards can get at their fullbacks. For
Mm.
me, I know that we were linked with Aaron Hickey, but I expect Martinelli to absolutely burn him. Like that's what I expect. If he can do that against Dallo and these other people, he could do that against him. Saka, I expect him to have a good game against Rico Henry. I think those two are going to be so important because the more that they run at those fullbacks, the more chances we're going to get. And it's just a matter of, can Odegaard get into the box and put one away? Can Gabriel Jesus get in the box and get put one away? I think those things are going to be super important for us. Their midfield is quite physical and big. They like to win second balls and they don't really pass around you, but they'll hit it long. And then Ivan Tony or one of their, I don't the other guy, I'm not even going to try to say his name because I'm not going to say it right.
Mbuemo.
Yeah,
Mbuemo.
him.
Yeah.
Exactly. They'll knock it down and then those players will run through and that's kind of like their game. And so I don't imagine that they'll pass around us, but it's important for us to engage in those second balls and make sure we win those balls in those areas. And I think that's where Thomas Partey will be important. If he doesn't
Mm.
play, I think we could be in trouble. Sambi won't do well against a team that's physical like that.
Mm.
And if he's tasked with getting second balls and getting stuck in, he won't be able to do it. Granit Xhaka, very important, and making sure that Odegaard stays engaged in the game because we know physical battles aren't really his thing. So I think making sure you win the midfield battle and get engaged in those second balls and making sure they don't get their game going, make sure we get our game going, and make sure that Martinelli and Saka are 1v1 against their fullbacks is the way that we're going to win this game, you know? Oh, but before we go into the next thing, I have to ask you because I haven't spoken to you in a long time. What have you
Go
thought
on.
about Granit Xhaka so far this season? I know it's not your
Granit
cup of
Xhaka
tea,
is
but
one of, yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I think he's been wicked, mate. I think he's been so good. Like he's been consistently good as well, Jess. Like that new role to me seems for whatever reason to have worked. And I think it's quite simple why it's worked. He's not making mistakes at the back anymore because he's more
mm,
advanced. And also what we're seeing, and it's credit where credit's due, he's playing better in that position because actually what he's doing is a lot of good. I think our left hand side has been probably our best side this season. I think with Zinchenko or Tierney, I think Martinelli and Jesus and Chaka's complemented that as well. I think what Granit Xhaka does need though is Thomas Partey back because I don't think Lokonga does what Partey does. I mean that's just normal. I don't think there's anything bad with saying that. But yeah, Granit Xhaka for me has been really surprising. Probably the biggest surprise for me because it's a player I wanted upgraded. It's a player I don't want to see in the Arsenal shirt. And I still stand by that. I do think we need an upgrade, 100%. But when he's coming in and playing well, you can't sit there just because you hate him and have an agenda about the fact that he's playing well. This guy's been superb. And, it hasn't just been the fact that he's been playing well. It's been the attitude I've seen. He's been really influential in what we're doing and instrumental. And I never thought I'd use those words with this guy. So it's been surprising for me, man. What about yourself?
I could just say like copy and paste exactly what you said. Like I think it's important like to be able to have conversations around players that aren't your cup of tea and that you would like to upgrade upon, but also be able to say that they've done well or they've improved. Like those
Mm,
conversations can exist within one conversation. And I feel like it's difficult sometimes because if you don't like Granit Xhaka, it's like, well, I have to act like everything that he's doing is bad. But anybody that's sitting there and watching him this season knows that he's went up a level. And I think you're right. Like the position that he's been playing maybe suits him a little bit better,
mm,
gives him more freedom. And I just think we're better. Like we're better. There's better players around. So when you're playing against with better players, you look better. And so
mm.
I think Granite has done really well. Um, he's a good leader in there, and I don't think there's anybody in the team so far that could take his position. I'm looking at Vieira. I'm like, okay, you're probably far away. Sambi, you're probably a little bit far away. So right now it's Shaka until otherwise. And so yeah, I've been very
Yeah.
impressed with him. I
I
think
have
he's been
been,
great.
and I want to bring up this comment because Mark knows exactly what we're talking about. So you don't know if you know this or not, Jess, but a couple of years ago, me and Harry, Harry Simu, we did like a secret Santa thing, and I got him. I pulled Harry out, and I bought him a Granit Xhaka little hammerhead figure,
I
and
remember.
it didn't come. Do you remember? And it didn't come, and I was like,
Mhm.
"What's going on?" Anyway, I bought it again because it like didn't
Yeah.
come, and then two of them come. So I was like, "Oh, you're joking." So now I've got one, right? And ever since I bought this dude, right, Granit Xhaka has actually been half decent. So I'm putting it down to them. It's like the opposite of a voodoo doll. Do you know what I mean? I'm like giving him good vibes and he's playing well.
I love
So
that.
it has to be part of that, man, I tell you. But listen, he's
Yeah.
been great. I can't sit there and lie. I can't say he hasn't been great. He's been fantastic. And long may it continue, because when Arsenal are playing well, Arsenal players are playing well, I'm happy. But I do think with Granit Xhaka that there's potentially a position there that if he does go, like Com's Party, the drop-off level is not quite the same. I think with El Neni and Lokonga and players like that, we're going down a bit too much. And I feel like the same can be said with Eddie Nketiah, who I think is a player who's definitely shown a little bit of progress and development, particularly around his kind of link-up play, hold-up play, and his creativity. But I'm not seeing enough goals from Eddie Nketiah still across the season. So I've not got enough faith that he's going to score. So I just think sometimes it leads me nicely to my next question. Is this squad good enough to compete at where we want to be competing for you, Jess? Or do we still look a little bit weak in certain areas?
So, what is your expectation for this season?
I think we have to
That's
bring
the big
Champions
question.
League football back to, at the minimum, it's got to be a Europa League win and top four for me, in my opinion. Some people disagree. They think, we're still not there yet. Some people think, yep, we're going to be up there with Man City. Everyone's different. From me, I think the minimum that we can expect this season is bringing Champions League football by finishing in the top four or winning that Europa League. But I asked you the
Yeah.
same question.
Yeah, it has to be Champions League. I don't care how it comes. It just
Yeah.
that's it for me. Like that's in like of course, like I want good football and all that kind of stuff. But we
Yeah, of
have
course.
that. I need results, or something like that. And like a sidebar, like an asterisk would be like if you could chuck in like a really deep run for the FA Cup, that hurt me last season. Like it did, like some people acted like it wasn't important.
Yeah,
The
I
FA
hated that.
Cup is so important. Like, what are you saying? Not going far in the FA Cup was like it was like the knife in the coffin for me. Like I was like, I just can't. So for me, it has to be Champions League. And I do think this team, as is, has enough to get there, but we need a lot of things to go our way. And that's kind of where we're at. Like we need the injury gods to be on our side. We need to make sure that we keep certain players fit. And the players that are playing up top, this is kind of like my main issue. Is it's not an issue per se, but it's something that's always in the back of my mind is, do we have enough goals? If these players right now, they're playing very well, but I still feel like we should be beating Fulham 3-4-0, beating Aston Villa 3-4-0, drawing the game at the very least against Man United 2-2 or something like that. I feel like we should be a little bit further along. And I look at this team and I'm like, that's where I think there's a little bit of a gap. And what might actually hurt us is because if Saka or Martinelli or Gabriel Jesus goes to a goal drought, you want to bring in players that have goals in them. You don't have them. They don't exist. Marquinhos, as good as he's played in the Europa League and how surprising he's been and promising, he's not going to give you goals. ESR can't stay fit. And Eddie, like you said, is probably not going to score more goals than Gabriel Jesus. So that's where I really worry. And if I had to go into the January transfer window and bolster any position, it might actually be attack. I think attack can band-aid over a lot of different things. And every time I go back and forth, it's like, is it a midfielder? Is it an attacker? I think even with the El Nenis and the Sambis, you can get through if you have somebody that can bang in the goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Ramsdale, he could kick the ball down the pitch to somebody that could put the ball in the back of the net. That could paper over the cracks of what we have in midfield. So for me, it's just about there. Like I think third is open. I think second could potentially be open, but it's all about how much luck are we going to get. We tend not to be that lucky. And so it's just a bit of that. And then it also comes down to Mikel Arteta and how he gets the team through. Because I do think he's been let off a little easy. Some people are like, well, it's up to the players and they need to do this. And I'm like, but it's still up to the manager to make sure that the team gets over the line. And he didn't do that last season. And so he's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's massive pressure on Mikel Arteta and Edu this season now that they haven't strengthened. In my opinion, we were still at least 2 players short. I have issues if we get a couple of injuries in a certain amount of positions. One of those is, as you mentioned up top, if Jesus gets injured, there's too much of a drop off for me with Eddie. If we get a drop off with Party, we've already seen that Lokonga and El Neni struggle to do what Party does. I think we can probably say the same now about Granit Xhaka as well. That, a Tielemans and a Douglas Luiz might have come in and done better than what Lokonga and El Neni could do. And I still have issues at right back. I've been really impressed with Ben White this season, and I think Tomiyasu is definitely good enough. But their injury problems just concern me, and I'm not so sure that Cedric is that guy. I think he's proven not to be of the last couple of seasons. So there's some issues there that I still think that potentially if there was an issue at right back, right wing, our midfield and our attack, then I still think there's options there for us to go out there and try and get those players in. And it just seems that the January transfer window couldn't come quick enough, and the window's only just shut for the summer. So for me, I'm still worried about this squad. I think the first 11, I think is great. I really like it, actually. I think it's the best it's been in a long time. I really like the back four. I really like the goalkeeper. I think our first team midfield is good enough, and I think the first front three is good enough. Where I then struggle is if that team against Zurich has to play a number of games in the Premier League, we are going to struggle because that was a poor side, and we played against a poor side, luckily. What I will say is that I think Marquinhos could be a bit of a surprise. He looks to be a little bit of a gem for me. There was some stuff I really liked about his game in terms of his pace and his dribbling, but also his crossing. So I think Marquinhos could actually be a guy that comes in and plays a little bit more games than I'm expected. I think with Fabio Vieira, he needs to get on the weights without being horrible to him. He's very lightweight, and I think that in the Premier League, you need to bulk up. But apart from that, Jess, we're struggling. Like when I see our bench at the moment with like Kozia Dubry and Serjan and Matt Smith, I'm like, why is this happening? 6 games in, and we've got 3 kids on the bench I've never really heard of. So it does worry me. I think Arteta likes a small squad like Pep does. I think he does. But I don't think you can be a big club like Arsenal and have a small squad. I just don't think you can. The reason that Pep gets away with it is because he's got a small squad of about 20 where they're all world class, whereas we've got a small
They
squad of
also
about
can play
13.
multiple positions. That's a key part of it as well, is
Versatility,
that
yeah.
most of those players can play 2 or 3 positions. Like you have, like João Cancelo can play 2 or 3 positions. Everybody
Mm.
can play in multiple positions, and we're trying to do something similar, but our players, like you said, are not at the same quality. Like Sambi can play 8 and 6, but you don't want to see him playing 6.
100.
Vieira could probably play winger and 8, but is he good enough to play 8? Like if we had to drop him in tomorrow, would you feel comfortable with him playing against
There you go.
Brentford? Probably not. So we're building towards that. But in the meantime, what's going to slip through our fingers? I think that's the thing about Arsenal that kind of frustrates me, is that we're building a lot for the future, but you still have to make your benchmarks in the present for the future to mean anything. Because as
Mm.
much as people don't want to look at these things, as if we don't have Champions League, we're going to lose our best players. So it will all be for nothing. So
Mm.
sometimes you have to make concessions in the short term, do a Douglas Luiz or something like that to make sure you can get to the future. And I don't think there's enough of that. I think that's the reason why Spurs are in the Champions League and we're not. And
Mm.
hopefully it's not the reason why we're not in Champions League next season, because there's more teams coming. It's getting harder. Like, Arsenal need to focus on now sometimes. I think a lot of
Yeah.
the decisions that we've made have been based on 2, 3 years down the line.
Yeah, I think we're always looking at the future. And the problem with that is that sometimes when you get to that future, there's been too long without winning something and people leave. And that's the problem when you're building for 5 years all the time. And we've already should have learned from that with Fabregas's and Nasri's and Van Persie's and, let's be honest, Wilshere and Ramsey's. So I think now that we've got the Sakas, Martinellis and Salibas that are all looking to get a new contract, which was a show I did yesterday with Tom, we have to get those boys signed up because they're a massive part of our first team future, not our backup. They're the ones that we need to be putting in the first team now and seeing. So I'm with you there 100%. I've got a couple of questions about Sunday for you. I want to get your prediction for the game. Your score prediction for the game. But there's a couple of injury pieces as well. We're looking at Zinchenko being a doubt. I'm hearing that he might be out for 2 weeks. Smith Rowe is still not fit enough after he's got injured in a warm down. I mean, how'd you get injured in a warm down, man? But he did. Thomas Partey's apparently fit. And Ben White, there's doubts over as well. So there's a couple of players there that apparently are looking to be kind of either risked or just about fit. So I wanted to get your kind of team news and what you do knowing that, and also your score prediction, Jess, for the Sunday's game.
Yeah, so I just did my stream before this, and some of the people in the chat were telling me that Arteta did say in his presser that Ben White is fit.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so so that might be something that we do see. So I would imagine if Ben White is fit, he starts. Um, Center back stay the same, Ramsdale the same. Tierney comes in for Zinchenko, which I don't know about you, but one of the most frustrating things for me has been the narrative around Tierney. I know that Zinchenko is the new shiny thing and he's great and all that kind of stuff, but Tierney is not a bum. And the way
Thank
people
you.
are talking about him, I'm like, he's not a bum. Like, I'm not even worried about him coming in. Give him a chance. Like, it's actually wild. So Tierney comes in. So hopefully everybody can like get over that. He comes in. I think Thomas Partey will play. I think Xhaka will play. Odegaard, same midfield, and the same front three. And that's pretty much what we'll see. In terms of the game, I do think that they'll score at least one goal. I think we've been a little bit open at the back because of the way that we play now. So I think we will give up at least one goal. But my score prediction is 2-1. I still think we'll win. I think we'll go out there and we'll be better than maybe what some people think. But it'll be harder than what some people think. It's going to be more like the Crystal Palace game than the Villa Fulham games. It's going to be a difficult away game where they're going to be up for it and we need to be up for it. But I think we'll just edge it and go into the international break feeling decent before we go into the North London Derby, which I'm weirdly hearing might be postponed. But yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that it's about train strikes, but listen, we're neighbours. I don't see how it makes a massive amount of difference. I'm sure people can get there, or they'll find a way to
Yeah.
get there. It's the North London Derby, man. But listen, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens with that one. I want to pick up on a couple of things you said because I totally agree with you. You've gone for the same score prediction as me. I think we'll win 2-1. I did mine last night with Lee. The only thing I would say that I disagree with is I would play Tomiyasu. Now, I don't think Ben White deserves to be dropped for poor performance, but aerially, Tomiyasu is class. Like, I don't think I've seen him lose an aerial duel. And Brentford have that quality to whip balls in. They've got Tony, they've got Mbeumo, they've got Norgard. They're all big guys. I would look to play Tomiyasu instead of Ben White. And Tierney, I don't understand now how all of a sudden Zinchenko is 10 times better than Tierney because positionally he's worse. Now, Zinchenko against Manchester United at Old Trafford was to blame for the first goal. You can't get sucked in like that. Positionally, I think sometimes his discipline goes a bit. I love everything else about him. I think he's a great player, Zinchenko. And on the ball, he's really comfortable. Kieran Tierney deserves a lot more credit. The reason people don't like Kieran Tierney or question him is because of his injuries. That is it. If he was a player that was like a Granit Xhaka and was fit every single game, he'd be everyone's favourite player. I mean, hands up, he's my favourite player. Along with Saka and Martinelli, this guy I love because he gives everything about, in terms of his mentality, and I think he's got a winning mentality. He's got leadership qualities. I love everything about his professionalism.
And he's
I just love this guy,
talented
man.
and he's
Yeah,
good. Like, that's the
I love
crazy
him.
thing. It's like
I just,
somebody called him a passion merchant. And I was like, but he's not though, because he's actually a
mm,
quality player. He's not
he is quality.
a passion merchant. Like, it's actually so strange. Like, it's one of the most frustrating things. Tierney is one of my favorite players. Like, he's probably top two of my favorite players. So
100,
I will back
100%.
him so badly. Like, even when he doesn't play well, sometimes I'm like, but maybe, like, but he's good. Like, I love Tierney.
Listen, I'm with you, man. You're never going to hear me. You're preaching to the choir, so they say. I've been trying to pick up this kid for a long time, and because of his injuries, everyone gives him stick. This guy is quality. I love him. I think he's brilliant, and I've got no problem with him playing. I thought he was excellent, by the way, the other night. I know it was against Zurich, but I thought him and Tomiyasu, along with Marquinhos, were fantastic. So I think we're probably going to see Ben White if he's fit. I wasn't aware of that, and I didn't hear the presser. I think it was only earlier, so I haven't heard that yet. But for me, yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I'm going to stick with you and go with 2-1. My last question for you, Jess, is where you think Arsenal are going to finish this season. What's the outcome going to be in May? I know there's a lot that can change. We're in a World Cup year. We've got fixtures all over the place already. What's your expectation for what Arsenal should do? And do you think we're going to be happy or sad come May?
Oh, I think we'll make it. I think we're going to get into the top four. I think this is our season. I think this is the one. There's a lot of uncertainty around the other teams, but I feel like because of how certain and how like like the piece is already in place, I think, for us, and we were just shy of it last season. I know people will say, well, that's because it was a poor so and so and is a poor so and so, or there might be a poor Chelsea. We don't know. Like, I don't really think those things matter, and I think we're just right there, and I think we will get it this time. I think, again, second, third, and fourth for me are all in play. I don't think we'll be second, but I think we'll be somewhere between third and fourth. And I don't maybe we don't get a trophy, I'm not sure about those things, but I think we'll be happy come May, but it's going to be close, but I think we'll get it.
I love the optimism. Do you know what my predictions for the top six were before a ball was kicked? I'm going to stick the same as because I still feel that there's a long way to go. I had Man City to win the league. I had Liverpool still second. Spurs I had third because I just think with Conte they just know how to get results, unless it's against Sporting Lisbon. I did have Chelsea to come fourth, and I kind of going to stick with that because of Potter, because I rate him that highly. But they would be the ones that could slip out. Then I had Arsenal fifth and Manchester United sixth. And of course, we're looking at the moment that Spurs could actually be second and Arsenal could be fourth, with Liverpool being in the middle there at third, because it looks as though Chelsea and Liverpool at the moment have started quite slowly. I think although Man United are picking it up, I don't think Ten Hag will get it, if I'm honest, top four. So it will be us who I think does kind of sneak in, if anyone, if I'm wrong there. But I'm going to stick with that. Listen, Jess, you're a legend. I really appreciate you coming on. Make sure you go over to Jess's channel. She knows Arsenal. It's in the title, guys. So all you need to do is click on it and hit a subscribe and support her content. Absolutely love what Jess has done. And me and Jess go way back. So it feels weird speaking to you again after so long, Jess, but it's been a pleasure.
I know. Thank you for having me. We'll do this on my channel next time for sure.
Would love that. Would absolutely love that. Guys, please smash a like on the way out. Please go over to Jess's channel. Get me up to 5K, please. I think I'm about 50 or 60 away at the moment. So please get me up to 5K. That would be amazing. Until then, we'll see you next time. Up the Arsenal next time we speak. Hopefully, we'll have beaten Brentford. Take care, guys.